One up. Hey YouTube, Electric Adventures here with the start of a new series. I thought I'd try and do something a little bit different. I sort of miss some of the YouTube collaborative series, and I love shoot 'em ups, so I thought, why not combine the two? And you know, you can only do so many pickup videos as well, so I thought, got a big collection here, we might as well do something focused on that. So we are starting a new series called Top 5 Shoot 'em Ups on various systems for computers and consoles. But I'm not going to do it alone. I'm going to reach out to the YouTube community and ask one or more guests for each episode to also pick their top 5. So the particular system that we're doing for this video, which the title is probably given away, is Top 5 Commodore 64 Shooters. And our special guests to help me along with this episode are no other than Lactobacillus Prime, or Mark Vergier as he's known, and the Highlander, or Wouter. So what I'll do, I'll let them show you their picks first, and then we'll come back to me and I'll show you mine.
Yeah, it works. It works. And let's hope that the audio quality is good enough. Supposedly it is on this mirror reflex camera.
Where's my lapel mic? Where's my lapel mic?
Back home.
I
do have lapel mics, but they're not working on that camera.
My contract says lapel mics.
Well. Sorry guys, this was supposed to be a
thanks for watching, bye bye.
A co-op video, but yeah. Actually, a good friend of ours, Tony, Electric Adventures, he invited us to talk about our top 5.
Top 5, yeah.
Commodore 64 games. Shmups.
Electric Avenger.
Electric Adventure. That's his. No, but I've actually written down on a piece of paper
I've got it on my phone.
My top 5, which is very variable. And you're a bit tired, aren't you?
Yeah, it's Sunday morning, people. Sunday afternoon.
Actually, Sunday afternoon has been for about an hour and 40 minutes. But yeah, I'm actually quite tired myself. So if you see us yawning, it's not because of disinterest or whatever, but it's just because we're dead tired. Oh, maybe. Gosh, yeah. It has been quite a while since I've made my last video. A couple of weeks, actually. So, but yeah.
Why don't you just go first with your top 5? And
yeah. Well, okay. Well, the first shooter that comes to mind is actually River Raid. River Raid on the Commodore 64 is actually quite similar to the Atari 2600 version. So that's actually my number 5.
This is all Commodore 64 shooters, right? This is
shmups, shoot 'em ups. So River Raid, it's a vertical shooter. I'll have some video on that also. But River Raid is number 5. Uridium by Hewson. It's quite an iconic shooter. That's my number 4. And there may be some sort of video thingy going on. Gyrus, of course. That's number 2. Oh wait, I forgot one. Bandits by Sirius Software. That's actually also a very nice shooter. It's like Galaga Galaxians on steroids. Gyrus, it's my number 2, which well, it's actually also Gyrus Galaga on steroids, but then with a circular type of view.
Yeah, and the better music.
Better music, great music actually. Bach will probably turn around in his grave if he listens to it. But and then my number 1, I will mention that after Wouter does his countdown.
Yeah, I did as Mark did. I did 5 gameplay videos. I don't know where they will end up in the video, but I'll just talk about my top 5. The first that I'd like to mention is Killer Watt by Alligator Software. Quite an early title, but advanced in its gameplay. It's quite a tough game, and it really stuck in my mind. I didn't play it tons, but it stuck in my mind, and I forgot about it. And then years later, I thought, ooh, what's that game where the little thing goes like that, and you go like that, and try searching for something like that on Google.
Yeah, it's impossible.
But I did it. Killer Watt by Alligator Software. Really like it. And it's got nice music. But if you look at the title screen, you'll see that it's really tatty, basically.
Oh yeah.
It's weird though, because it has the logo scrolls. It's basically 2 sprites, and the logo goes from left to right. And then when it gets to the end of the screen, half of the logo goes away, and then the other half goes away, and then it appears on the other side. And then you think, oh, that's really bad. But the scrolling in the game itself is really good. So
so it's a very good game with some rough edges, I guess.
Yeah, and it had some funny remarks in the sides, and you're shooting dolphins. Come on, who doesn't like shooting dolphins, right?
It's a cool game. I remember this.
I liked it. Then my number 4 is Star Wars Arcade, which I couldn't believe was possible on the Commodore 64, especially the level where you go under and over the
where
Death
you're in
Star
the trench.
level.
Yeah, the trench.
I couldn't believe that was possible, and I thought it was ace back then. If you listen to the discussions now, you'll hear that C64 is enabled to do vector graphics, and it's all very chuggy and slow and whatever.
It runs at 5 frames per second, I guess.
What the hell? I didn't even know what a frame per second was when I saw that. I just thought it was ace, and I went out of my way to get the game.
It's a very
pirate
cool
the game. I have to say,
pirated it. Yeah.
Nothing. There wasn't a single fiber in my being that said go out to the store and buy it, because I didn't even realize that was the thing to do.
25, 30 guilders probably it would have cost.
Oh well, that's a good
50 perhaps.
Really?
They were very expensive. Games on the console.
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know.
No, I did buy games, and they cost an arm and a leg. So what we did was copy tape.
Yeah, well, I didn't even look. Anyway. Number 3 is Zaxxon.
Wow, the Sega game on the Commodore 64.
I knew Zaxxon from the arcade. Not that I was good at it, because it's that weird isometric view.
It's actually not true isometric. That's okay. Well, semi-isometric view. Yeah.
Tell us about how it's not isometric, Mark.
I'll put it down in the comments. Actually, I might not.
Anyway, it's a weird angle game, but I just thought it was ace, and I was always looking for games that I could play at home that were exactly like the arcade games, but I didn't have to pay for them at home. So Zaxxon was one of those games, and I couldn't believe. Because I'd been looking at Galaga clones, and I'd been looking at Donkey Kong clones, and they were all crap on the Commodore 64. So when Zaxxon appeared, I thought, well, this is ace. This is just like the real thing.
So you actually had a notion of arcade perfectness.
Yeah, because I knew the arcades.
Yeah,
I knew the arcades, but
it's a very good port. I think it's arcade perfect.
Really liked it. Yeah. Then number 2 on my list is a recent game, and that's Galencia.
Oh yeah, that's ace. I mean,
Galencia is the Galaga clone that I wanted when I was a kid. Yeah. I think. I mean, it's not Galaga, but it's sort of
Super
Galaga-ish.
soundtrack, border sprites, great animation, sprite multiplexing.
Very nice.
It doesn't look like a Commodore 64 game.
Not at all, and if that had to be on my list. I mean, there's a load of games, a number of them that I'd like to mention after we're done.
Yeah, we can.
But this is these are games that I actually played, and Galencia is one that It's really a nice game to sit down and have some fun with, and then come back to just to see how far you can get with it. I really like it.
Yeah, very
now.
cool.
What's your number one, Mark?
My number one.
Pray tell.
I'm actually going back and forth between two. It's either Anarchy by Houston Software, which is a puzzle shooter. You actually had to look it up because you didn't know.
I did Anarchy, you say?
Yeah, Anarchy. It's a very cool game, but I think I'll go with, and Tony will probably know. It's Space Pilot, which is an unofficial Time Pilot game. Because Time Pilot, Space Pilot, Time Pilot and Gyrus, I just love these games. Space Pilot on the C64 is Time Pilot, and I think today's programmers will probably be able to make something nicer out of it.
Well, with the number of arcade reproductions that we've had.
Yeah, I mean, I would love for that. I would love for Gyrus to be redone, and I would love for Time Pilot to be redone. That would be ace. That would be awesome. And yeah, I'll show some gameplay somewhere, perhaps.
Tony will. Tony will show some gameplay.
Yeah, this is just raw footage. We'll be raw uploading to Tony, and Tony will probably make a very nice production out of it. But yeah, without further ado, number one.
My number one, and it could have been any title that I played, but this my number one is Commando. Commando, and
which version?
Well, in the gameplay that I've done, I've used the recent arcade rewrite. It's reasonably like the original Commando, which I played then, of course, but so it's either or. I don't really have a preference for either one. It's just that the Rob Hubbard music in that game, just as in Gyrus, it's the music that, I mean, I came for the music and I stayed for the gameplay.
The speed of the gameplay is just awesome.
It's a balls hard game. I mean, and I've never gotten very far beyond the second level, but it's one of those games that just keeps inviting you to try again. And again, well, you know, the music is the thing that that makes it stand out. And I've never actually played the arcade.
You didn't?
No.
Oh,
no.
wow.
Some of these arcade games we just never had in the arcade, like Star Wars. We didn't even have the Star Wars arcade game in our arcade.
I played the arcade. I believe it was in Afifauna, the Commodore game.
What, the Commando?
Commando. And, the Commando game. And I think the Commodore 64 version is very good. But very good.
What's the? How about the music then? If there's an arcade game.
Oh no, yeah, no. Actually, the Commodore 64, yeah, sound effects, different music. I mean, the
it's not the Hubbard soundtrack in the arcade game.
The Hubbard soundtrack is just awesome. That actually makes it a better game, I think. That soundtrack rocks. Actually, there's quite a few games that I played because of the soundtrack.
Right. Like Gyrus. I mean, I'm a Galaga fan, and I didn't prefer. I'm not saying I don't like it, but I didn't prefer Gyrus because of the circular motion. I couldn't.
Yeah.
I couldn't get my gameplay to really fit the going around thing. And the Commodore 64's resolution is too small. When the enemies get really small, they turn into tiny blocks, and I don't.
I think with these Gyrus, with these Galaga type games, I think the moment they introduce more variation in enemies and stuff, which Gyrus does, it's actually a lot nicer than the standard Galaga game, because that's it's a bit boring, isn't it? I mean, perhaps I'll get flagged for this, but I think it's a bit boring.
I like Galaga. I like boring. That's my thing.
I mean, we've been to this arcade club, and you actually have been playing that.
Oh yeah, I like
quite a bit.
Yeah. So, want to do the honorable mentions?
Yeah, the honorable mentions are actually very interesting as well. There's like vertical. There's a couple of vertical scrollers that the Commodore 64 is not necessarily the best at because of the screen resolution. For example, I've always been trying to play 1942, 1943, which are balls hard because of the resolution, the vertical resolution being just out of whack. So I couldn't mention them at all actually in my top 5. But
all right.
Yeah, Capcom games, Midway games.
Yeah.
You have some you want to mention?
Yeah, I'm just going to run through them because I don't want to make the video last for ages. But I wanted to mention Choplifter, which you could discuss whether it's a shooter or not. But basically, you're shooting. But I really liked Choplifter for its simplicity and its smooth gameplay, and it's a game that I came back to a lot. Blue Max.
Oh yeah.
It took ages before you figured out how to play it, but then. A sort of, but again, it's one of those weird.
It's among one of the first games I played on.
Weird angle games. Falcon Patrol.
Oh gosh.
Falcon Patrol, really tough and game, and I didn't have any manuals for any of these games, so you basically just started shooting at everything that moved.
And flying, and you just didn't have any real strategy.
Strategy.
Yes,
it was just well, apparently when you watch the gameplays now, you see people have figured out how to play it, which is. But I didn't have that. But Uridium. I can specifically remember finding Uridium on the C64 and just not liking it because I didn't get it. It was way too fast.
It's like Alicat, the you know, by Andrew Brook, the same dude. Looks nice, but it's balls hard, and you actually don't know how to play it without a manual. That's
the thing. What I like about these games now is that when you think about it, like Paradroid, it's not a shooter basically, but it's a thinking game. You have to think about how it works. I have Iridus Alpha on here. Iridus Alpha
on the C64.
Definitely. Oh yeah, Iridus Alpha is a Jeff Minter game. Which is really...
Oh, wait, yeah, I know it.
Which is so difficult that you have no chance of figuring it out without a manual.
Yeah.
I have Space Harrier on here.
There's actually 2 ports of that.
I used to hate it.
The American port and the PAL port, and both are actually not very...
I used to hate it. It gave me a really odd feeling. I knew the arcade game, and I kind of liked the arcade game because it was like Afterburner, in a sense that you're flying, but you keep getting in your own way. So I hated it on the Commodore 64. Fort Apocalypse, which is definitely a game that I played more than once.
Yeah, it's a Fort Apocalypse that used to be some sort of ongoing joke on a lot of C64 forums.
Really?
Yeah, every once in a while one would post Fort Apocalypse, and then there's just whole shitload of stuff that people, you know.
Why? Is it a bad game?
It was just perhaps people in the comments can actually tell us what it was all about.
Next one is Raid Over Moscow.
Bloody hell, that was a cool game.
Which, I mean, I'm mentioning it as a shooter, but there's a lot more to that. I mean,
a series of mini games with shooting elements in it.
I can just remember the scene where you walk towards that airplane and you have to figure out a way of getting out of the hangar, and it took us ages to figure out how that works.
No manuals.
No manuals. And the last one that I want to mention is Flyer Fox, which, again, we had a really cool Afterburner in our arcade, the one with the moving seat and everything. So anything that felt like or smelled like Afterburner, I pretty much liked. And Flyer Fox was one of these games that I thought, how is this possible? How can this run on a C64? Because you were basically in what I thought was a jet, and you're flying around. I didn't know what to do. You just shoot at stuff. But the flying around element was just cool. I didn't play it much. I started it a lot, just so that I could get a feel of that flying thing, and then I thought, oh yeah, the game is crap, and then I stopped it again.
I remember that game, and I thought it was ace, and it was like a super duper example of, super fancy programming on the C64, but I never figured out the game. A couple of other mentions, honorable mentions, horizontal shooters like R-Type.
Oh, right, yeah.
Like Delta, IO, Armalite. Great shmups, pretty much late in the C64's life. Pretty much disc-based only, multiple level loaders, but great games. But I just didn't play them that much because back then, when at the later stages of the C64's life, I was actually programming more than playing the games that much, and I was actually getting into PC gaming. And
knowing Tony's preference for shooters, I really wonder about his reaction to our selection.
I think your selection could easily have been my selection, actually.
Yeah, but I don't think either of our selections could have been Tony's one, because he's more of the top down and the vertical. I mean, I could have mentioned Defender.
Of course, Defender. Ah, man, yeah.
But I didn't know it then. I just didn't know about Defender then. And R-Type, I didn't know about. Salamander?
Salamander, Gradius.
I didn't know about it.
No, not the best on the C64, but
no.
I'm very curious after Tony's
Tony.
top 5. So
come on, man, come on.
Right, so both Mark and Wouter picked some very interesting titles. I believe I have at least one crossover to what they picked as well. So I'll show you my top 5 first, and then I'll show you some runners-up as well. I did play each of the games again to make sure, and the restrictions I place on myself is I must have a physical copy in my collection. So unfortunately that puts out one of my favourite games, which is Paradroid, because I don't have a physical copy of it, if you can believe, but I do enjoy playing it. I'll just show a screenshot of that one, no gameplay. Alright, so number 5. Sorry, I've accidentally put them out of order. Now this one only just pushed out another one by on the same Mastertronic label. I actually have a few on this Mastertronic label of actual physical titles for my Commodore 64. It's a vertical scrolling shoot 'em up, and it's called Sidewinder 2. It's actually quite nicely done, very smooth vertical scrolling, and in high res mode as well. So it looks a lot more detailed than some other Commodore 64 games. It's not very easy, it's actually quite hard, but I actually quite enjoy it, and I really enjoy the music. So let's go and have a quick look at that one. Right, so next, and I had to include this one because it really is one of my favourite Commodore 64 games of all time. It's number 4 though, because I've played it a lot in the past, and I do play it occasionally, but it doesn't have as much replayability as some of the others. Obviously introduced some fantastic effects and you can't believe this is running on a Commodore 64, and of course it is Iridium. The sound, music and graphics have to be seen to be believed. So let's go and have a quick look. So next, my number 3. This one probably would have been even higher on the list, and I was going to put it lower on the list because of one thing. It's a tape. I mean, I've got a copy on tape. I also can't seem to load it using my Ultimate 1541. I mean, it loads, but you can't start the levels. It's either that or I'm not patient enough or something like that. But it's a tape loader in every level, and when you die, it has to reload from tape again, which can get really annoying. But it's actually a really good game. Mark picked this one as well. It is Salamander, and it really is well done on the Commodore 64. Bit of slowdown in some places, but it plays really well. You can't believe this is playing on a Commodore 64. So let's go and see me die lots on this. So now my number 2, the only one of these that I don't have a case for, but it's actually on a cartridge. I don't have very many cartridge games for the Commodore 64. It's an older game. It's not exactly the same as the arcade game. It does have its own slight nuances, but it is very close, and I do really like the arcade game. It's another one that a ColecoVision version of this came out recently that is very good, but it is none other than Wizard of War. Really enjoyable game that you can also play 2-player. Let's go and have a look now. number 1. A lot of people will probably be very surprised that this is my number 1, but it is a horizontal shoot 'em up, which I'm a particular fan of. Depends on what sort of a mood I'm in, but I do generally like horizontal shooters more than other things, and it really is such a good fun game. You can play it 2 players if you want, but nobody ever wants to be the Jeep. I think I've given away what it is. It is Silkworm, and it really is a fun game. It's not too hard to get started. It does have auto fire on the button, which is great for me with my bad arm. And you know, a gradual power-up system as you grab various things. But it really is my favourite shoot 'em up at this particular moment in time. So let's go and give that a really good play.
That's definitely my favourite.
Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed my picks there. So some games that almost made the cut. So this is the one that Sidewinder 2 knocked out, and it is quite a good game. It can be a little overly hard, and it's a little hard to make out some of the enemies sometimes. That's the only reason why I picked one over the other. If I did this list again, I might have picked it. And it's Gemini Wing. It's actually rather well done. It's a good vertical scrolling shooter. So obviously I switched out another vertical scrolling shooter instead of this one. It is worth having a look at if you're interested. Really quick look at some graphics of it now. And another mention, of course, goes to one of my. I love this game. It is much better on the 16-bit machines, though, but it's not too badly done. That's Xenon. The version of Xenon on C64 is much better done than the version that I got for the MSX, because that one was a Spectrum port, and they could have used some sprites and things like that to make it better. Still quite playable on the MSX. It is a little funnily enough, easier to see on the MSX port, and that's the reason why I eliminated this one from the list. As much as I like playing it, it's another one where it can be very hard to see the bullets and the enemies because of the contrast between things. So that's another one on my list. And I did have another one here. It's a run and gunner. I'm not very good at it, and it's the one on the bottom there, which is Midnight Resistance. And yeah, just a couple of almost rounds there. So I hope you've enjoyed the start of a new series. I can't promise any regularity in this, because I also don't want to put pressure on the people submitting video for this. Both Wouter and Mark were very enthusiastic on putting this video together, and I do have some more planned, but obviously the invitees need to record their parts, and then I need to do my gameplays as well. So we'll see who we get over the next couple of months. It'll be very interesting, and I hope you've enjoyed this little outing. Now, as a little bit of extra bonus footage, Wouter recorded full gameplays of his picks as well, so I thought I'd include that as an extra bit straight after me. But that's all for me for the moment. So I'm Electric Adventures. Thanks to all my subscribers. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.
This is 1984, so it's early days for the Commodore 64. So the music and the screen, the alligator kilowatt logo is just two sprites, one shutting off before it's off screen. You know, it's pretty cheaply done, but the game is pretty good. And this is one of those games that I played by myself for a while, and then I forgot about it. And years later, I tried to find it again, but the name Kilowatt is just a name that didn't stick with me very well. So when I found it, I was pretty happy that, and I'm gonna die. This is a bug. The first time you get on the screen, you always die for some reason. So, very, very smooth scrolling. I was very impressed with that right from the start. It's a game that the inertia in the game is something that they programmed really well, but you have to really get your mind around it, which I don't always do. I tend to want to go too fast. Shot him. You're supposed to get these lanterns. I don't even know what the goal of the game is. Of course, I didn't have any official versions. I just pirated everything, so I never had a manual. So that's my big regret for pirating everything, that I never learned anything about the games themselves. I just happened upon them and liked them. So the second time you do this, there's no crashing, but this first time you get on the screen, you always crash. But this little ship that sort of tilts when you go up and down, I really enjoyed that. And I just thought the scrolling was pretty cool for an early game. It showed that the programmers really knew what they were doing. And then there's the music. I mean, this tendency to use classical pieces. Maybe they tried to get around the copywriting, or it was just a logical choice. I don't know. And the texts. The Blagger 64 thing here, I like that. Of course, I never finished this game. Ah, I died. Mind your head. And then you go all the way back to the beginning. How about that? Kilowatt, guys. This is one of my favorite shooters. Just, you know, needs no explanation. I really, really liked it. Let's go on to the next one. This game, again, I played it on someone's 64. Someone that I don't know, or maybe I saw it at the computer club, but I was very impressed with it. But nobody I knew had it, so I couldn't ask anyone for a copy. And of course, it didn't occur to me to go and buy it, because who would buy any game for the Commodore 64? So I had to go to a friend that I didn't even, a friend's friend had it, who I had to call, and I didn't even know the guy, and I had to ask him if I could come over and copy his Star Wars. Now I didn't realize at the time that there was an arcade cabinet. This was one of the arcade cabinets that wasn't in any of the arcades that I frequented. And I didn't know that the Commodore 64 wasn't the ideal platform to do vector games on. And the term slowdown didn't really affect me. I was a pretty happy kid because I didn't care much about anything. But I did know that I liked this game and that I wanted it. So and I did my best to get it. And I think it was in Manchester that I first played the Star Wars arcade cabinet with the proper controller, which was really an eye opener for me. It was really a nice experience, being able to finally play the game proper, right? So yeah, really. But it was mostly the Death Star level that made me like this game. So in the first wave, in the first wave, that is the second. This level, it was just, especially when the bars show up and you have to go over and under them. That was just a total 3D experience for me, and I'm still not used to being, I like flight controls. This is up and down is down, and I don't know what to do with that. So I'm all over the place and going the wrong way again. No, going the wrong way again, and I can't get used to it. I keep going up when I want to go down, and down when I want to go up. Oh, wait a minute. I can shoot these squares, of course. See, I keep doing this the wrong thing. So, and then there's the level where the posts are, and you have to shoot the laser towers or whatever. I just didn't believe that could ever run on a Commodore 64. It's just, the controls are far from precise, and I'm super clumsy with them. So. Yeah. So that's Star Wars. I just this was a game that I really went to a lot of trouble to get it, and it's still one of my favorite games. If I could have another cabinet, and it'd be this one. I like it. So let's move on to the next one. Here we go. when you saw a title like this, you knew you were in for something good. Sega, Zaxxon. Again, that this game could even exist on my Commodore. This was just magic to me. I come from the video pack era, and this could run on my computer, and I didn't have to put in any money to play it. And it was, and never mind that it didn't have any music. I mean, I was just too amazed by the fact that it ran at all. Such a good game, this. Such a nice experience. And you'll notice that for some reason I had a liking for games with an odd 3D perspective, but they confuse me as well. So especially in this part of the level where it's impossible to really judge precisely where the other planes are, except for the short time you get a little purple cross when you're on the same level, and otherwise you just have to go by the size of the airplanes, or the airplanes. Yeah, well, what are they? They are actually airplanes in space, aren't they? And I'm getting hammered here. There are airplanes in space. How logical is that? They have wings. You don't need wings in space. I'm dying, and my number of ships isn't going down, so somehow I have some sort of cheater activated, which is anyway, Zaxxon, can you believe it? I so love this game. Just like Thing on a Spring, it had a magical attraction to me for some reason. Really enjoyed this. So let's go on to the next one, which is really good. It's Galencia. It's not an old game. It's definitely a new game. This is a Galaga clone, basically. Of course, all reprogrammed. You can even buy this on Steam. Definitely inspired by Galaga, but not the same game. Very, very well programmed. There's a new version as well, Chaos Sphere. I think, though, that it is only available as a cartridge game, making it a bit more expensive, which is a shame. But you get good quality and a good game.